Hey, Caiti.
Hey, Annalise. It's showtime.
Thank you for coming back to the podcast.
It's an honor to be here.
You can't even look at me.
I'm having a great time. It's too intimate.
I'm Annalise,
And I'm Caiti.
and this is Spirit Static. So do you know what we're talking about today?
Not dreams.
No.
Not deja vu.
Nope. We're talking about near-death experiences.
Oh, fuck.
And I have a lot to say.
Do you have any near-death experiences yourself? Damn it.
No.
Damn it.
I'm talking about people who genuinely are clinically dead.
Oh, shit.
That
Okay.
come back to life either for an accident or, stuff like that.
That's sick. Okay, I'm ready.
Have you seen, there's a docuseries on Netflix called Surviving Death?
I haven't. I have watched / listened to I Survived, which is a show and podcast, but I haven't watched the Netflix
Documentary. This docuseries has 6 episodes in it. This podcast episode is really just going over the first episode, which is about near-death experiences. The rest of the episodes are about mediumship, reincarnation, and some other stuff like that, which I also will probably cover at some point. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it one after the other, but I just watched that first episode and I kind of want to go over what happens in the episode, the people in the episode and their experiences, and what we think about it. And I guess some scientific stuff that's in the episode.
Let's do it.
I really loved watching it. It was really crazy. Maddie was here when I was watching it earlier too, and she started crying.
Just because,
She got emotional over something, yeah.
dang,
Mm-hmm.
Empathy for the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The episode starts out with a doctor. She was on a kayaking trip in Chile,
Mm-hmm.
and while she was kayaking, her friend accidentally blocked off a certain part of the river they were kayaking on, and it forced her to go over a waterfall.
Holy.
Yeah. She became pinned at the bottom. Her boat was pinned.
Under the water?
Under 10 feet of water.
So she's underneath the waterfall, under the water, with
Yeah.
it pounding down on her.
Well, I don't know if she's necessarily underneath the flow of the water, but she's in the water that was
Stuck.
at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay.
Under 10 feet of water. And she describes her experience. She said, I could feel my bones breaking.
Ooh.
But she said, I felt no pain, no fear, and no panic. She
Weird.
said, I felt more alive than I've ever felt.
As her bones are breaking.
Mm-hmm. And mind you, also, this is a doctor who has no religious or spiritual really big opinions. It's not something that she's.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't made up, basically. It's credible.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I could feel my spirit sort of peeling away from my body. And then my spirit was released up to the heavens. And then she says, I was immediately greeted by a group of somethings. I don't know what to call them. People, spirits, beings.
Damn.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is the nerd in me. You said her bones are breaking. Did they go into specifics about what was happening to her physically? What?
Yeah, I'll get there.
Okay.
This is how the episode of the documentary starts. She's explaining this experience and what happened and how she was feeling. So she is greeted by these spirits or people or whatever, and she said she didn't recognize any of them, but she knew that they were somehow important in her life story, even if she didn't recognize all of them. She said that they were overjoyed to greet her, and they led her down a path through thousands of flowers. She said she could smell them.
Wow.
And this is all kind of euphoric type of experience. And the story is kind of similar to what a lot of other people report in their near-death experiences, but there are unique factors to each one in the documentary. She said there was an absolute shift of time and dimension. And then she said that through that path of flowers, the people that were greeting her led her to this domed structure, and she thought she was in heaven, and she felt this overwhelming sense of being home.
Wow.
She said that at the same time, even though she was in this domed structure, with these spirits, she said she could look back at her body that was pinned at the bottom of the river.
It's so she's having this hallucination while also having an out-of-body
experience.
Almost dissociation, but interesting.
Yeah. So she ended up being without oxygen for 30 minutes.
Oh.
She was rescued.
I didn't even know you could survive that.
They did not think that she was going to make it through the night. They told her husband that she likely wouldn't make it through the night, and if she did, her brain damage would be so significant. Like, she had zero chance of surviving without significant brain damage.
I'm assuming they resuscitated her somehow.
So they did start resuscitation on the scene. They did CPR and all of that there, and they got her to the hospital. But she said that when she was rescued, she could see from outside of her body. She said her body was already bloated and purple with fixed eyes, which means they're no longer like dilating and stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're fixed. And she said she could still hear the people that were resuscitating her and performing CPR, which seems to be a common theme of the people that are having this experience being able to still hear what's going on around them and the people that are rescuing them.
Kind of reminds me of like when people are in comas, sometimes they can still
hear.
Hmm.
And it kind of also put some things into perspective for me because, like, as a nurse, I've had patients where it's like you don't think they can hear you or understand you, but you just never know.
Yeah.
And so it's always worth it to make them feel comforted, even if you think that they don't understand or they can't hear you.
Yeah.
She said that she didn't want to go back down to her body because she was, she's in this euphoric experience. She's feeling comforted and in this warm zone, and the spirits or beings told her that she had to go back down because she had more to accomplish on Earth.
Damn.
That's kind of the synopsis of her story. And especially coming from like a clinical doctor standpoint, it really changed her perspective on life. And she said, I don't believe that we know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fair.
I always wonder if it's like two things are true at the same time, right? So like, she could have gone into the beginning of the afterlife or some sort of like, etc. I also wonder if there's lack of oxygen, hallucination, XYZ. Does that trigger some sort of sensation like that in the brain? Can it trigger hallucinations?
Well, they talk about this in the episode too.
Okay.
Because you would think that maybe the brain creates, something like that. So I guess what happened to her body, the main thing that causes you to die is lack of oxygen. So when she's pinned under there and then they don't get her resuscitated for a certain amount of time, they're still trying to get her return of spontaneous circulation. She's lacking oxygen to the brain, and a lack of oxygen will cause tissue death in different organs of your body, which is why even if they got her heart beating again and her organs perfused again, the time that there was not blood and oxygen flowing to like her brain or certain organs, it can cause death in the cells and tissues.
Damn.
Yeah. So that's, she drowned. Yeah.
Okay.
In addition to multiple broken bones and torn ligaments.
Fuck.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is silly, but to resuscitate someone like that, are you just doing CPR? Like, because you can't electrocute them if there's water in their body?
It depends on the resources that are there. Like, I think if they were doing CPR on the scene, on the dirt, all you can really do until help gets there is compressions and breaths. But then when she gets into an ambulance, they can dry her off and do whatever they need to do. They probably start an IV, give her epinephrine, continue to do compressions. They might shock her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe they wouldn't shock her if she had her lungs full of water, but body's full of liquid too, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the first story, and we're going to be kind of returning to something having to do with her story at the end because she comes back into the picture at the end of the episode.
Okay.
The episode then cuts to this division of perceptual studies at the University of Virginia. Isn't that a cool, like...
Division of Perceptual Studies.
The Division of Perceptual Studies. And there's like the main guy talking is a professor for psych and neurosciences. And they study stuff like this. I think that's just super cool. Why didn't I study this? What the heck?
Perception is so broad.
This professor from the Division of Perceptual Studies, Bruce Grayson, MD, he's a professor for psych and neurosciences. He tells us some facts about these experiences and about the brain. He says that between 10 to 20% of people whose hearts actually stop will report these dramatic near-death experiences. And they're almost always blissful experiences and comforting. And it's interesting to me that these people that die, they don't feel like, when I think about dying, I'm always overthinking the pain I'm going to feel.
Yeah, and like panic.
Panic, yeah. Or the feeling of, let's say, I died in some kind of accident. The feeling of, like she said, she could feel her bones breaking. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff always freaks me out. So
yeah,
it's kind of comforting to know that people that experience this, it seems like a
positive,
positive experience. And he says that there are millions of stories like this doctor's across the globe. So this is like kind of, I don't want to say universal because it's only 10 to 20% of people who die and come back to life, but it's, well proven. But at the same time, it's hard to prove because the studies that they do or the evidence is like anecdotal. It's only what people can self-report. It's not stuff that you can really
measure.
Yes.
Or like you'd have to talk to every person who ever had a near-death experience and catalog their response.
Even if you did that, it's still you're relying on a biased person to tell you their perception of a situation.
Yeah.
But I still think it's obviously very valid. And he was saying that a lot of other scientific ideas come from the same basis of something that happens to someone. You know what I mean?
Makes me wonder, like when people say that they almost died and their life flashed before their eyes. Was it a euphoric flashing? Or was it just like timeline?
Yeah. And like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Your life flashed before your eyes? I don't even understand what that statement means, honestly.
Yeah.
So the other interesting thing that this professor brings up is that the brain is thought to be the source of consciousness. But when someone dies, including their brain dies too.
Yeah.
Why are people still reporting a conscious experience? And that's something that has been really hard for them to figure out.
I guess because here I am solving science, but even if you're
what's your take,
even if your brain tissues are dying, it's not your entire, like different parts of your brain are responsible for different things, right? And so I don't know what part of your brain controls like conscious thought and mental visualization, but if your amygdala is dying instead of that part or whatever it is, maybe that's why.
And these are the questions I was hoping you would ask. Because they do talk about some stuff like that.
Okay.
I kind of wrote my summary in order of how the episode went, so I'm going to stick to that, but we will
get back to it.
Yeah, get back to that idea.
Okay.
But yeah, if someone their brain's dead, meaning their brain tissues are dead.
But it can't be all of it.
Or there's no oxygen to the brain tissues and they're not working. How is that happening? How is there anything firing in your brain? Yeah. It's really interesting. Okay, so next in the episode, there are multiple people kind of talking about their different near-death experiences. It's cutting to multiple people. And there's one saying she had an asthma attack in her apartment. There's a guy talking about being shot in a war. There's someone that got hit by a driver who was texting, all these people that have had a near-death experience. And some of the common things that they report are a sense of time being distorted, which is interesting. I feel like we've talked a lot about time in a different episode, the deja vu episode, but here it comes back again. I feel like time really connects to consciousness in ways that we can't understand.
And it's perception, too.
Right.
If you feel like time is moving differently, you're perceiving it differently. It's your perception of time.
Yeah. Some of the quotes of how they would describe the experience are, they experience a warm, loving being of light, a sense of getting information from some really high frequency teachers. That's what one lady said. And then another lady said, it feels like a warm energy hug to the brain. All of this is like making me think like, damn, dying doesn't like seem so bad.
It makes me wonder, I'm not a religious person, but if I was, would I say that that's a higher being?
Right.
Like you're in God's hands or whatever?
Yeah. None of these people specifically said anything like Jesus or like said anything religious in particular. I can't, what I'm trying to say.
They didn't attribute it to a
religion.
Yeah.
Yeah. They may have had their own beliefs or even they may have been atheist, but they all had a similar type of feeling or experience. And I think different religions are obviously probably on to different aspects of this.
Yeah.
So,
like if you were spiritual, you might interpret it one way versus if you were
a Jesus lover.
a Christian. Do they I don't want to get ahead of myself. Did they talk about I can't remember exactly what it's called. It might be called like second man syndrome or anything like that.
I haven't heard of it.
Okay.
Never heard of her.
I can elaborate, but I think I should wait. I should hold on.
Why?
You Well, okay. So, as an avid listener to My Favorite Murder, they talked about this in some of their episodes of like near death experiences, and I think it's called second man syndrome, but I'll have to like look it up to confirm, but it's essentially like there's folks who are in these like life or death situations, like really high adrenaline, high or they're on the brink of death, and they will either hear a voice or they will see someone, and usually that person is helping them. Like, keep going, keep walking, or it's someone who's coaching them through it, or they think it's like someone behind them. They've encountered someone in the woods, etc. And then basically when they get to safety or get through the situation, they'll look around and there's nobody there. There's like a multitude of stories where, but essentially it was their brain the whole time. I don't know if they really talked about the science behind it. It's almost like dissociating in a different way, or like your brain splits and you become two different people, and person A can help you survive and person B can't.
It's a hallucination of part of your brain trying to help you.
Yeah, where to put his feet or keep moving or do XYZ thing to keep warm or
that's a cool concept too.
Yeah.
And you know what I think it is? Ghosts.
Could be. Some people have thought it was like maybe their spirit of like an ancestor or like a family
or an
member.
angel.
Or an angel.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about basically the common feelings around this experience that are reported by people who have near-death experiences. And then another common feeling of these people is that they no longer have a fear of death after this experience.
I wouldn't either if I was having a great time.
Right?
Well, my bones are getting broken.
I'm ready to come home.
Take me, Lord. Let's go.
Yeah. It then cuts to some more of the scientists or professors studying this, and they talk about how after people have an experience like this and they come back, they can have some difficulties then having to live in the real world again because of what they've experienced and what they know now, I guess.
Like, what is reality?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it seems like they have this elevated knowledge of more about life after death, obviously. And they can have difficulties with materialism, employment, and they said marriage.
Well, and too, if it's that doctor who survived the waterfall, if she described it like the most euphoric thing that's ever happened to her, the most alive she's ever felt, they might even be tempted to seek out.
I'm like, why aren't they killing them?
Like, I just think about the climber Alex Honnold, and he puts his. Okay, I know, but like
everything relates back to Alex Honnold.
But he puts himself in these situations. I mean, some of it is he's built up a tolerance to that adrenaline, etc. It's the most alive he feels is when he's doing these incredibly dangerous things, and like he's not unconscious and on the brink of death hallucinating, but it is a sort of similar feeling. I wonder if folks would, if you survive that and it was the most alive you've ever felt, you might continue to seek it out.
Yeah, like seek out coming close to death. So the point is, living in the same world with a completely different point of view is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I'm sure it's just traumatic surviving something like that.
Absolutely.
And that changes you.
Next, we go to, there's a group in Seattle, and it's a bunch of people that have had near-death experiences all meet together, and they have speakers, and they share their experiences and stuff, and it's a good way for them to connect and just be in the presence of other people that understand the whole experience.
That's good.
And there's an electrician who gets up and kind of tells his story. He had an accident at work where he fell into something and he broke all of his ribs on one side.
Oh my God.
Which didn't kill him. He was taken to the ER where they gave him medication, like pain medication. He ended up coincidentally being allergic to that medication and went into anaphylaxis and died.
Damn.
Right?
I'd be...
They did end up getting him back with resuscitation, but he had this near-death experience. And for him, he described it as a tunnel, but not like people describe the light at the end of the tunnel or, you know, like you're in a dark tunnel going toward the light. He described it as this colorful tunnel wrapped around him, and he's becoming different colors, and he's one with the colors. Whoa. And it's all kind of
trippy.
Yeah, flowing together. And he said he heard millions of voices and chatter while he was in this tunnel. And then he said he looked down and he can see the ocean, and he sees a man who's standing knee deep in the ocean.
Mhm.
And at this point, I'm like, okay, Jesus, is this going to be a Jesus story? It was his father, whom he had a very difficult relationship with during his life,
Hmm.
to the point where I don't think they talked or they resolved things.
They're estranged.
Yes, they're estranged. And he's the first person he's seeing during this near-death experience. And he said that they hugged and they said they loved each other.
Mhm.
And he said he felt this immense, like, closure and healing through this
Hmm.
experience, and they were able to connect. I wanna bring up another thing with this too, seeing a family member, even one that's estranged during this near-death experience. There's this medium that I follow who I love, Sean Collins, I think is his name, Sean
Mhm.
Collins Medium, and he says that there's a group of spirits, which is your family, I guess, or your family or friends, certain people that are meant to be in your life,
Mhm.
like life after life if you have multiple lives, but as a group of spirits that stick with each other
Mhm.
and somehow play a role in each other's lives. And even if you have a falling out with them in one life, or you don't get along, or you're estranged from them, when you guys are both back in the spirit world, it's no hard feelings. It's not like there's still this tension. It's like all of these spirits are all learning together
Mhm.
and interacting with each other. And it just is a really interesting perspective, and this reminded me of that concept of
Mm.
having a group of spirits that are your family, even if one of them does very evil or hurtful things in a certain lifetime.
Yeah.
So yeah, he reconnects with his dad. His dad said, "You need to go back."
Hmm.
And this man, Jose, he said he didn't want to. So kind of similar to the doctor too. It's when you're feeling this euphoric experience, so you're like, why would I go back? You
Yeah.
know? So he didn't want to go back, but then eventually he made an agreement with his dad that his dad would come back to get him when it was really his time.
Makes me wonder if it's like another manifestation of that second man thing. Like they're hearing a
Mm.
voice or a person who's
Mm-hmm.
telling, and they're
Telling them to go back.
yeah, and they're interpreting it one way, but what if that is just another part of their brain
But
trying to
if
keep
their
them
brain's
safe?
dead, Katie, how is it
I know, but it's
conjuring up
not.
this whole
It,
ass thing?
it's not their entire brain. If they were fully brain dead, they wouldn't come back.
That's not true.
Well, okay.
You can be fully, I mean, it seems kind of miraculous. Like the doctor wasn't supposed to make a full recovery. It is really a miracle that she isn't brain dead.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Which is also kind of unexplainable.
I don't know this is me being annoying and sciencey, but like at what percentage of your brain has to die for you to be brain dead? Can it be restarted or whatever? But it's like if a little bit all over dies versus a whole section. I don't know.
So, one of the scientists in the episode said that within 20 seconds of your heart stopping, there's no brain activity,
But
which is considered flatlining.
how long does the activity have to stop for the tissue to die? Or I guess the death of the tissue is the oxygen, right?
Oh my God. I'm sure they've studied all this.
Well, because I know like you kill brain cells, like smoking kills brains, inhaling a Sharpie kills brain cells, right?
Oh, I
But like
love both those things.
But, like, what's the like, at what point do you go from cell death to I think of, like, tissue death as, like, mass cell death, right? And then enough of your tissue dies and you're fully brain dead. If you cut out a piece of my brain because I have a brain tumor, I can't move my legs anymore because that tissue is gone and dead, but I'm still alive. I don't know.
Let's look it up because I want to know too. So, the AI overview says that brain death typically begins to occur 4 to 6 minutes after the heart stops.
That's a long time.
Irreversible brain damage is highly likely after 10 minutes without oxygen or resuscitation. Although recent studies suggest the brain might show signs of activity for longer.
Yeah, that's like when you're beheaded, your brain actually stays alive for a bit. I don't really know how long, but
But I think we'll get to another example that kind of goes a little bit more into a brain activity situation. And we can talk about it a little more, but maybe there is something with the brain then that creates these
yeah, that's what I
scenarios.
wonder.
But I don't want to believe that, Katie.
You want to think it's deeper?
Of course.
I mean, I think it could be, it could be both.
Okay. I don't.
I also have you heard the thing where people talk about going through a tunnel and seeing the light, and some people hypothesize that you're actually being rebirthed on the end of it?
No.
Yeah, like
Mm.
that's they hypothesize that. And if you see the light or go into the light and you go and then you're dead, right? But in theory maybe you're born somewhere else. But if you go halfway down the tunnel and you come back, you didn't get reborn because your soul is still in your body.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. The scientists in the documentary, they try to come up with medical explanations for these kinds of experiences happening to people. And they've considered, is it people who are in the hospital and are getting drugs right before they die that are causing some kind of hallucinations? But according to statistics or studies they've done, the less drugs that people are given, the more likely they are to have a near-death experience like this. So when there's less drugs on board, these experiences tend to happen more often. When there's more drugs on board from the hospital, these experiences don't happen as often, which is interesting.
Did they say what type of drugs?
No, but there are plenty, like pain medication, epinephrine, yeah, like life-saving drugs. They did consider this, the people in this documentary, the professors, the scientists, they considered, is it because of a lack of oxygen to the brain that's causing this euphoric experience and blah, 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 blah. But then they go on to say that typically when people are losing oxygen to the brain, their experience is more...
Like fainting?
No, it's more like people get aggravated or like it's more of a negative experience type of thing.
Okay.
And one of them said you cannot maintain consciousness unless you have a highly organized brain, which makes sense.
What makes a brain highly organized?
I don't know, but Katie, I don't know how I could get into that.
Well, it just makes you wonder if these people who experience that like euphoric, that one lady is a doctor, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you have to have an organized brain to be a doctor, I imagine.
It's not because she didn't have
No, but
this.
but you, like whatever highly organized means, I wonder if you put all the people who experienced that feeling when they had a near-death experience, would they have, I don't know, one of them could be like a really talented artist or it could be XYZ, but
even if they are that and they have this lack of oxygen and their brain cells are dying, their brain activity is not going to be highly organized. You know, your brain's fighting for its life when you die.
That's true.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I do know when you're dying, your body's going to divert blood flow and oxygen to the most important organs, your brain and your heart.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But we're going to go into another story, which we're going to talk a little bit more about the brain here. There was a woman who had a massive aneurysm in her brain that was at risk for rupture.
Ooh.
So, do you know what an aneurysm is?
I know it's like your blood vessel in your brain.
Yeah, it's like an artery
burst?
has it can burst, but the aneurysm itself is when part of the vessel kind of pops out to the side and there's a collection of blood in one of the arteries.
Is it like a brain bleed or does it put pressure on your brain?
No, it's not like a brain bleed. It can burst, though, and cause death.
Okay.
It's not bleeding. Just the aneurysm itself can be like latent there until something happens or it bursts or whatever. There's surgeries for this. And I was looking it up, and one of the surgeries that they usually do is placing an aneurysm clip, where they put a clip like by the blood vessel and this extra pocket on the blood vessel to clip it off.
Oh my God.
So that it's less likely to cause problems, I guess. It's still there, but it's like clipped off.
How do they go into your brain to do that? That's crazy.
It's crazy. I don't know how long ago her surgery was. She was on the older side because she said that she had a procedure where they cooled down her body and removed blood from her body in order to shrink the aneurysm.
Okay.
So that it would just like come down, shrink a little bit. And during the procedure, so they have her brain hooked up so they can monitor brain activity, and her brain activity flatlined.
Oh my God.
During this procedure.
So she died.
Which I think was kind of expected. I think it seems like a very high risk procedure.
Yeah.
And like if anyone medical ever listens to this and you're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. I don't.
We're not experts. We're here for a good time. Correct us if you need to.
Yeah, but this is how they explained it on the documentary. And so her brain activity flatlined, but while her brain activity was flatlining, she had a near-death experience, and she said she had this out-of-body experience, and she felt like she was almost like sitting on the shoulder of the surgeon kind of point of view. During the surgery, her eyes were taped shut, and she had earplugs in. After the surgery, she was able to describe instruments that she had never seen before that were used to open her skull.
Whoa.
She could say things that were happening during the surgery or describe a certain tool that they used when there's no way she could have seen that happening. is interesting because there are multiple medical staff or surgeons that will testify in this documentary, which is cool too. The surgeon says that it was inconceivable to him that she would be able to describe this certain tool he was using.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
because she was clinically dead.
Yeah, and even if she had some awareness, they go to and they do X, they do Y, they do Z. She can't map out moment for moment what they did to her. Wow, that's
Yeah.
so interesting.
There's one more near-death experience that we'll talk about and has to do with pregnancy. There was a mom and dad. Mom's pregnant. They already have one kid who they had naturally. The second baby, I think they did like 7 rounds of IVF, so it was an IVF baby. IVF babies and pregnancies tend to have more complications in general, and I just know that from my job. This mom had a gut feeling throughout her pregnancy that something was going to go wrong, and I think it was at her 20-week checkup, she was diagnosed with something called placenta previa, which is a risky thing during pregnancy because it can cause, basically, it can become complicated and cause massive hemorrhage or bleeding.
Yeah. Okay.
But it might not also. And it can cause the mom and the baby to both die.
Okay.
And as soon as she heard that she had this and she did more research on it, she immediately said she had a feeling that something was going to go wrong, and she just knew that something was going to go wrong, and she had a feeling that the baby would be okay, but she would not. She would have these premonitions where she would see like a water fountain in public or a fountain, and she would see the water coming and it would turn to blood. Or like she would have all these weird premonitions or just feelings, and her husband thought she was crazy and was like being hysterical about her pregnancy when she was having all these gut feelings. And then when it came time to have her baby, she had a C-section, and she said that the day that she went into labor, she was bleeding. She went to the hospital and she said she knew she was going to die. She had gone in for a previous checkup because she thought she was hemorrhaging because she was bleeding, and everything checked out fine. The doctor was like, "You're fine. Nothing's wrong. It's gonna be okay." And she was like, "I just know something's gonna happen. Something's wrong." And her baby is born. The baby comes out okay, and then seconds later, the mom flatlines during the C-section.
That gave me the chills.
I guess she had an amniotic fluid embolism, and she was bleeding to death. And I don't know the pathophysiology behind this. Please don't ask me.
It's okay.
I'm like, I don't know.
Damn.
So she flatlines during the C-section. She said she also had this out-of-body experience. She could see outside her body. However, she wasn't on top of her body, like floating over the top. She was standing more perpendicular or kind of in different parts of the room. And she said that everything kind of was blending together. She said she could see her husband, and he had flown in because she was having the baby, and she said she could see what he was wearing when he got off the plane, and then she could see her daughter waiting with their grandma or whoever was taking care of the daughter. She said she was having these visions, all while being in the operating room. And she said that spirits started appearing too.
Wow.
Yeah. And then she felt a pulling in her stomach, and then she was back in her body. And she was clinically dead for 37 seconds, I guess. She also said that she heard the surgeon say, "This can't be happening." She could hear what people were saying, and she could remember which nurse started CPR on her. She could recall these certain things that were either said during the incidents or where people were standing exactly. And there's no way that you could, things that would seem impossible for her to remember. And the surgeon did say this can't be happening because she was so in shock that this patient predicted her own death.
Yeah.
So, the doctor was like, "Oh my God, this can't be happening." The surgeon or the OB also talks on the documentary about I couldn't believe this happened,
That's why you should believe women when they tell you something's
Believe
wrong.
women, #believe women.
1000%.
Yeah. And then this woman who had this baby, they got her back, obviously. And she said since then, she's been having more visions and premonitions, and they become more intense since this experience. And she said that she has become more of a serious person and
Yeah.
just less easygoing than she was because
Yeah.
of this whole thing, and she can predict things that are gonna happen to people, and if someone's gonna have a heart attack, she said she feels like she's gonna have a heart attack, but it's for someone else that she's, like, just seeing in public,
Yeah.
or you know what I mean?
It's hard too, I think, after you're sort of, like, proven right with something like that, when you get that gut feeling, you gotta go by it. I think in general, we humans, we try to go with our guts, but especially when you've been proven right to such an intense degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like once in college, my friends wanted to go to this house party. I really wasn't feeling up to it, and I had such a bad feeling about going, and they were totally fine. They were in the basement, but there was a drive-by shooting through the house, and nobody died, but people had to rush to the ER and
Oh
hospital
my
because they had
god.
gunshot wounds.
Wow.
And it was crazy, but I thought I was just being anxious or antisocial, but who knows?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's
Crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanna bring it back to the doctor that had the near-death experience on her kayaking trip in the
Mhm.
beginning. We talked about her.
Mhm.
There was something that she didn't share with anyone about her near-death experience until way later on.
Mhm.
She had a son, and during her near-death experience, I think he was, like, 8 or 9, I
Mhm.
believe. During her experience with the spirits, they told her that her son was gonna die.
Damn.
It was in a way that made her feel like he wasn't gonna live past 18. She never told anybody this, and she said she went to great lengths to try to prove this whole experience wrong. Like,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
experience that she had, she wanted it to not be true,
Yeah.
mainly because of this message that her son was gonna die. Her son ends up getting up to his 18th birthday, so she's relieved. Like,
Mhm.
okay, he's 18, maybe his destiny has changed, or
Yeah.
the path has changed or whatever, everything's fine, maybe it wasn't true. And
Mhm.
then 2 years later, when he's 20, he's at a ski camp with his friend, and a car hits him, misses the friend, hits him, and kills him. She had actually told her son before this happened about what happened in with the premonition of her feeling like he's gonna die because of her
Oh my god.
experience. And
His whole life, she's probably so freaked out.
yeah. So she told him, and he kinda laughed it off when she told him about this. Not that they could have prevented it.
Right, like, my mom had this crazy vision when this thing happened to her, and now she thinks
Yeah.
something's gonna happen to me and
Yeah.
XYZ.
Yeah, but it ended up coming true. So, I think he might have been one of the only people she opened up to about it
Mhm.
when he was, like, 18 or older, and then he died.
That's awful.
She did say she said, "I know my son is somewhere, and I know that I'll see him again."
Mhm.
So in a way, her near-death experience made it so that she could have a little bit of comfort knowing that her son likely had this euphoric experience and he is somewhere. And there
Yeah.
is a consciousness, and,
Mhm.
he is around somewhere.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. It made me think, like, maybe she had a near-death experience so that in the future she would be comforted that her son's spirit was okay.
Yeah. Warned her sort of too.
Yeah.
Like, not that it could be prevented, but yeah, to provide her some kind of comfort in the future.
Yeah. She said when she was told that her son was gonna die by the spirit world or the spirits, she asked them why. Like, why would my son die? Why would this happen to me?
Mhm.
And their answer was, quote, "Beauty comes of all things," end quote, which was interesting to me. And I'm like, that's some fucking bullshit though, because some things don't have beauty come from them at
Well,
all.
maybe they're talking about, like, even though he has to die, you're experiencing beauty in this moment and you're living, and beauty comes in all things, even in death.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Because I hate it when people say everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm like, it makes
Sometimes shit
me
just happens,
oh my
like
god, it makes me so mad.
yeah.
Especially when it comes to things like murder,
Yeah.
rape,
Yeah.
evil. I'm like, no, not everything
Death.
happens for a reason. That's insane to
Yeah.
say. So, anyways, I thought that whole story was so interesting. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy that she had this near-death experience and then her son did end up dying?
It is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like also it makes me think of some of those crazy stories of connection, like how sometimes twins and things like that, one of them gets injured or something happens to one of them and the other one who has no way of knowing can feel it.
Yeah.
Or
We should do an episode about twins.
yeah,
That'd be cool.
I'm a twin. I can talk. I was Have we
Oh,
talked?
wait,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
didn't you eat your twin in the womb?
No, 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 no.
Oh.
Different kind no, I didn't eat her. Different kinda yeah. But even, like, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and, this girl and her best friend have had crazy connection since they were kids. Or that same ESP, like, something happens to one, the other one can feel it. And this girl worked in a donut shop, and one day she got, there's, like, EMT who'd come in all the time. And he just came in later than usual, and he was like, "Oh, I just came back from this, like, crazy car accident." And right before this, she'd had this really sinking feeling in her gut. She was like, "Oh, was it a Chevy Cobalt?" Which is her best friend's car, and the EMT was like, "Yes, it was." And so she, like, gets off work, races to her friend's house, and her friend is okay, but the car had been totally, like, wrapped around a tree. Her
Wow.
friend, like, had bumps and bruises and etcetera, but was alive.
Wow.
But, like, she knew, you know? I think
Yeah.
that some of that stuff is crazy.
It's really crazy. Or even this is a very minor example, but I'll be thinking of a certain friend and then they text me an hour later. Someone
Yeah.
that I don't talk to on a daily basis or a
Yeah.
weekly basis will randomly reach out to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was just thinking about you. Doesn't that happen to you sometimes
Yeah,
too?
it's really freaky.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up. The end of the documentary kind of talks about, how people's lives have been affected since their near-death experience. And there's kind of a focus on Jose, which was the electrician that had the allergic reaction in the ER
Mhm.
and had his near-death experience. He took up painting a couple years later, and he said that he would paint and try to recreate the colorful
Oh,
tunnel
damn.
that he saw.
That's cool.
Yeah, really cool. And he said it was very healing for him.
Mm.
I thought it was a beautiful way to end
Yeah, that
the
is beautiful.
documentary episode.
'Cause there's beauty in all things.
Beauty comes from all things. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Alright.
It makes me feel better about dying
Yeah.
because, I'm a little
Nervous.
slightly nervous, but not really, honestly. I feel like it's going to be fine, and it's really comforting to know that people have those experiences and that maybe it's not going to be painful.
Yeah. What do you think happens after you die? Do you have a theory?
I'm more on the spiritual side of like, I don't really know and I don't really want to assume anything
Mhm.
because I just think we're not going to know until it happens.
Yeah.
I don't think that our consciousness goes dark and nothing happens because I do believe
Mm.
in ghosts and I do believe in paranormal stuff and I do believe in stuff like this, especially with the evidence that's presented throughout
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
I do think that there's something that happens or, like the energy cannot be created nor destroyed
Yeah.
type of law where something happens, but I don't know what.
Yeah.
And I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I don't know. I go back and forth because I do feel like I'm not religious, but I do feel like there's sometimes higher power, higher energies, more spiritual vibes. But for a long time, or maybe still, I sometimes think when you die, it all kind of slowly goes dark. Because I also think, I mean, we're humans and we have consciousness, but we're also animals. And so if we believe this for ourselves, it means we have to believe it for every living creature that's ever
Mhm.
existed. But I also, I think things about, like you said, like the energy thing and like decomposition is super interesting.
Mhm.
I watched a whole video on mushrooms, and it made me kind of change what I wanted to happen to my body when I die.
Oh yeah.
I think I told you about this, right? Like, I'll still probably get cremated because it's what's most convenient for everyone. But but I do think decomposing in the ground, being absorbed as energy into other beings, and like,
Other life forms.
yeah, or like how the trees communicate through mycelium and all of that. I think that's super interesting. I don't know. Like, do you become part of that too? Is that
Mhm.
we're just
We won't know until we die.
R.I.P.
I think we will, RIP.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you're still here, thanks for listening. And if anyone has anything they want to share, then send us an email of their story. And yeah, thank you, Katie, for being on the podcast. I'm getting all
It was an
shy.
honor.
Oh my gosh, you're making me
With
blush.
that, we'll call it a night.
We'll call it a night.
Bye,
Good night,
y'all.
everyone. This podcast is sponsored by me.